Why do Kenyan athletes dominate distance running? Is it genes, altitude, or something deeper? Let's tell this like a documentary for a YouTube audience. Imagine a quiet morning in the Rift Valley. Kids jogging to school, not thinking of becoming champions, but building endurance every day. Scientists have looked for a running gene and haven't found one. So genetics alone doesn't explain it. Altitude helps, sure, but other high-altitude countries don't produce Kenya's depth of talent. What really stands out is culture. Running is a pathway to opportunity. Kids see neighbors become Olympians, so the dream feels reachable. Then there's training. Simple, consistent, and group-based. Teammates push one another every session. Add disciplined recovery like simple meals, proper rest, repeat, day after day, year after year. No shortcuts. And here's the overlooked piece. Numbers. Thousands compete for few spots. So, by the time someone reaches a world stage, they've already outlasted. But there's still one question we haven't answered. If altitude, genetics, and natural talent are not enough, what happens when a young Kenyan decides, I want to become a world-class runner? This is where the story becomes even more fascinating. Because in Kenya, becoming an elite distance runner is not simply about waking up one morning and deciding to run. For many athletes, it becomes a way of life. Imagine arriving at a training camp in Kenya before sunrise. The air is cold, the roads are quiet, and while most people are still asleep, a group of runners is already preparing for one of the most demanding parts of their day. No stadium packed with thousands of spectators, no giant screens, no luxury training complex. Just athletes, coaches, a road, and a goal. And then they start running. One after another, they move through the high-altitude roads of the Rift Valley. Some are Olympic hopefuls. Some are experienced professionals. Others are young runners trying to prove that they belong. And this is one of the secrets of Kenyan distance running. They train together, but they compete against each other every single day. When you train alongside someone who is faster than you have two choices. You can slow down, or you can try to catch them. And when everybody in the group is trying to improve, the entire group gets faster. This creates something incredibly powerful, a culture of competition. But Kenyan training isn't simply about running enormous distances every day. That's another misconception. Elite distance training involves different types of workouts. There are long runs designed to build endurance. There are faster interval sessions designed to improve speed and efficiency. There are hill workouts that strengthen the legs. There are easy recovery runs. And there is something many people underestimate. Rest. Because the goal isn't simply to destroy the body. The goal is to stress the body, allow it to recover, and come back stronger. And that cycle is repeated again and again. Run, recover, adapt, repeat, for months, for years, until something extraordinary happens. The athlete's body begins to tolerate workloads that would be extremely difficult for an untrained person. But Kenyan runners have another advantage. They have a huge pool of competition. Think about it. If one country produces only a small number of talented runners, becoming one of the best may be relatively easy. But if thousands of talented athletes are competing for opportunities, the standard becomes much higher. A runner may be extremely good in their local community, but then they meet someone faster. They improve. Then they meet someone faster again. They improve again. Eventually, the athletes who survive this process become exceptionally strong competitors. It's almost like a natural filter. The competition keeps getting harder until only the very best remain. And there's another powerful factor, the possibility of changing your life. For some young Kenyan athletes, running is more than a sport. It can represent education, financial opportunity, a chance to support their parents, a chance to build a house, a chance to give an entire family a better future. And that changes the meaning of training. When you know that running could transform your life, the alarm clock at 5 in the morning sounds very different. You're not simply getting up to exercise. You're getting up because you have a dream. And that dream can create an extraordinary level of motivation. But motivation alone cannot produce world champions. There also has to be discipline. And this is where the Kenyan training culture becomes particularly interesting. Many elite runners live relatively simple lives. Training, eating, resting, recovering, training again. The lifestyle revolves around performance. And their diet is generally not some mysterious secret formula either. Traditional foods such as ugali, vegetables, beans, potatoes, rice, and other carbohydrate-rich foods can provide the energy needed to support heavy endurance training, alongside protein and other nutrients. So no, there isn't a magical Kenyan food that suddenly turns someone into a marathon champion. The real advantage is consistency. Simple things done extremely well, over an extremely long period of time. And then there's altitude. Many elite Kenyan runners come from high-altitude regions, particularly around the Rift Valley. Training and living at altitude can place additional demands on the body because there is less oxygen available in the air. Over time, the body adapts. This can contribute to physiological changes that are useful for endurance performance. But here's where we need to be careful. Altitude is an advantage, but altitude alone cannot explain Kenya's dominance. Because Kenya isn't the only country with high mountains. There are high-altitude regions in Ethiopia, Morocco, Mexico, Colombia, and many other parts of the world. Yet Kenya has produced an extraordinary concentration of world-class distance runners. So altitude may be one piece of the puzzle, but it isn't the entire puzzle. And what about genetics? This is perhaps the most controversial question of all. Are Kenyan runners genetically built to run? The answer is much more complicated than people think. There are genetic differences between individuals and populations, and researchers have investigated whether certain physical characteristics may contribute to endurance performance. But there is no scientifically established Kenyan running gene that explains a country's success. Kenyan runners are not one genetically identical group. Kenya contains many different communities and populations. Some groups, particularly the Kalenjin, have produced a remarkable number of elite distance runners. But even within those populations, not everyone becomes a champion. Talent matters, but talent without training is only potential, and training without opportunity may never become a career. This is why the Kenyan phenomenon is so difficult to explain with one answer. It isn't simply genetics. It isn't simply altitude. It isn't simply training. It isn't even simply culture. It's a combination. Geography creates an environment. Culture creates motivation. Competition creates pressure. Training creates fitness. Coaches provide structure. And opportunity gives athletes a reason to keep going. But there is one final ingredient that may be the most important of all. Belief. When a young Kenyan runner sees Eliud Kipchoge crossing the finish line, when they see Faith Kipchoge dominating the track, when they see another athlete from their own region standing on an Olympic podium, they don't see something impossible. They see proof. They see someone who came from a place like theirs, who trained on roads like theirs, who faced struggles like theirs, and still became one of the best athletes in the world. And that creates a powerful cycle. One champion inspires another. That athlete inspires a younger generation. The younger generation enters competition. The competition raises the standard. And the highest performers become the next generation of champions. So perhaps the real secret of Kenyan distance running isn't hidden inside their DNA. Maybe it isn't hidden in the mountains. Maybe it isn't hidden in some secret training facility. Maybe the real secret is a system. A system built over generations, where running is respected, competition is intense, training is consistent, and success is visible. And that brings us to perhaps the most fascinating question of all. If the ingredients are so simple, why can't every country simply copy Kenya? Because knowing the recipe and creating the same environment are two completely different things. And that is where the story gets even more interesting.